Good morning, everyone, and thank you so much for joining us for our government contracting series, Marketing to the Government. My name is Heather Fay, and I am the Regional Program Director and Botetourt Advisor for the Roanoke Regional Small Business Development Center. I am so excited y'all are here this morning, and for those of you that are going to be listening later on, this is a great resource for you, and we are so excited to have you with us this morning. Let's go ahead and get started with a few housekeeping things. If you've attended a workshop with me before, you know that I love engagement. Please use your emoticons in your Zoom menu to give our presenters a thumbs up or pop something in the chat to let us know that that resonated with you or that you found that valuable. Our virtual workshop today will last 2 hours. If you will, please keep your microphone muted. We are recording today's workshop, and I will be sending that out to you along with the slides from today's workshop after the fact. Closed captioning is available, and that is on. If you want to turn that off, you can do that in your Zoom menu. I will also encourage you to use the chat. We want to have this conversational. If you have questions, please add those, and I'll be sharing those with Lisa. If you have resources that you want to share or tips, please feel free to do that as well. Also, I encourage you to grab a pen and paper and take notes. There's lots of great nuggets, and you will, like I said, have a copy of this recording, but there's things that you want to jot down today to come back to. Please do that. All right. The Roanoke Regional Small Business Development Center is a small and mighty team that serves businesses throughout the Roanoke Valley, Franklin County, Allegheny Highlands, and the New River Valley. We offer confidential advising, workshops, education, events, and online resources to help your business thrive. Be sure to check out our website as shown here on our screen for free resources, worksheets, and articles that will help you run your business smoothly. While we do a lot of workshops and training, we highly encourage you to get matched with an advisor that can be a sidekick for all things business. If you are in the Roanoke Valley, Allegheny Highlands, or the New River Valley, you can find out who the best advisor is for you through our advisor match on our website. Let me show you what that looks like. If you aren't in our service area, there's an Sbdc office near you. And if you go through our advisor match, we'll make sure to get you connected with the Sbdc closest to your business. My colleagues and I meet you where you are and provide support to you throughout the life of your business. The Roanoke Regional Sbdc is funded in part through a cooperative agreement with the U.S. Small Business Administration and is supported by America's Sbdc, the Virginia Sbdc, the Basin Enterprise Center at George Mason University. Pandemic-related capacity building grant funding is provided by Go Virginia. Other funding is provided by local administrations, economic development offices, and businesses that are all champions in your corner. Thank you to our host, the Roanoke Regional Chamber of Commerce, for providing space and support for our work. We have several upcoming government contracting series workshops. Next week, we'll be hearing from Raman with the Virginia Department of Small Business and Supplier Diversity on how to become SWAM certified on June 2nd. And then Lisa will be our presenter today, will be back with us the next couple of months to present on June 28th, the Hub Zone certification process, the 8A certification process on July 12th, and the WOSB WD WOSB federal certification process on September 27th. I will be sure to include all of these dates and information and links to where to register for those workshops in the follow-up email as well as in the chat today. Today's workshop is brought to you in part with a collaboration with the Virginia PTAC and the Virginia Department of Small Business and Supplier Diversity. Thank you so much for spending time with us today. Work on your business. Make sure to follow up on social, and I'll be sure to share our contact information and encourage you to connect with us on Instagram and Facebook to have quick impromptu little tips for your business, as well as more information about our upcoming events. All right, the moment y'all have been waiting for. It's my pleasure today to introduce our presenter, Lisa Wood. Lisa is the statewide director of the Virginia PTAC, hosted by George Mason University, where she is also an adjunct professor of management. Prior to that, Lisa has served as a statewide director with the Connecticut and Ohio PTAC programs and was also the director for the Northwest Commission PTAC in Pennsylvania. Before joining the PTAC community, Lisa was a procurement specialist for Bechtel Plant Machinery Incorporated in the greater Pittsburgh area. In this role, Lisa performed contract administration and negotiation duties. Lisa also recommended bidders and handed issue inquiries, negotiated bids, performed cost and price analysis, and prepared comprehensive letters to justify recommended contract actions. Lisa holds an MBA from the University of New Haven and a BSBA through Robert Morris University of Pittsburgh, where she is also pursuing her PhD in instructional management and leadership. Lisa, thank you so much for joining us today as our guest speaker. And I also want to introduce Raman, who is with us today. He is with the Virginia Department of Small Business and Supplier Diversity. As I mentioned, he will be presenting next week. But Raman, if you wanted to share a few remarks, as I am stopping my screen share and Lisa will get hers queued up for us.
Thank you so much. And I would like to welcome everyone on the behalf of Virginia Small Business Supplier Diversity. Well, many of you know about us. We are an agency that provide SWAM certification and help you provide one-on-one business counseling on how to do business with the Commonwealth. So we have partnered with PTAC and Sbdc to bring this wealth of knowledge government contracting series where you will learn about all aspects of government contracting. Now, I would like Lisa to take over and share his wealth of information, and you can she can answer most of your questions, and it is always a pleasure to listen to her.
Thank you, Raman, and thank you, Heather. So welcome everybody to today's presentation, Marketing to the Government. And this is extra special for me because we just had a matchmaker yesterday in Arlington, along with the DC and Maryland PTACs, and it was live and in person, as well as hybrid. So we were pretty excited about that, getting people out and shaking hands and exchanging business cards. It was thrilling. And we had a panel of buyers on the stage who all took turns talking about what they look for in a small business and how they do their market research. So I love to listen to that because it's an affirmation to everything that we teach you in government contracting in the presentation. So this one especially, this is as per what those small business liaison officers in the small business offices for the federal agencies and the prime contractors, this is what they look for. These are their wish list items. So we're just the conduit. We're the ones who tell you what they want from you. So without further ado, we're going to move on here. I could get my screen to change. Okay, here's our agenda for today. We're going to talk a little bit of how to get started with your marketing plan for government. And it's not like commercial world. You're going to do things a little bit different when you are preparing to and actually performing marketing to government entities. We're going to talk about how to perform your market research and how you're going to go into competitive intelligence, which means looking at your competitor and see what they're doing and try to maybe borrow some ideas. Also, some marketing tips and tricks, things that I've learned through my many years of doing this and actually hosting matchmakers for the past 13 years and surveying government buyers and prime buyers to hear from them what they like to hear and see. And then we're going to look at the dynamic small business search that you would have in your SAM profile. And we're going to close up with capability statements, which is your most important document for marketing to the government. So here's something that I want you to think about. The government buys everything, and I mean absolutely everything, but not every government agency or prime contractor buys everything. So what I'm trying to say here is know who buys what you sell. You need to determine who is the best person to market to, because you do not want to waste time and effort and dollars marketing to someone who is never going to buy from you. So this is the first half of the federal year and how they manage procurement. So in the first quarter, they don't know how much money they're going to have. That's when you always hear that talk about continuing resolution and government budgets. It's an unknown. So they're not going to be doing any procurement at this time. They're waiting to know how much money they have to spend. They're going to be doing planning and probably some forecasting, but they're not going to be going out and doing any procurement unless it's absolutely necessary. On the second quarter, they know how much money they're going to get from Congress, and they're going to start planning those big procurements. They're going to pull the trigger on the ones that they've been forecasting that they know they now have the money for. And at this time, they also have the suppliers that they have envisioned will be responding to those. So when I was a contracting specialist for Bechtel, when we were doing our forecasting, we actually had targeted vendors that we felt would be responding to those. In the second half, now things are starting to move a little faster. So third quarter, they want to make sure that they spend all their money, and they're a little bit anxious about meeting their socioeconomic goals. And by the fourth quarter, man, things are happening. This isn't the time that they're doing long-term procurement. They're doing simplified acquisitions under the $25,000 threshold and credit card purchases. They're trying to spend all that money, because if they don't spend all the money that was allocated to them, they're not going to get those dollars again. Governments will say to them, hey, you didn't spend all your money last year, so we're only going to give you what you spent. So they want to make sure they spend every dollar that was committed to them and make sure it was all obligated. So this is a great time to sneak in under the wire and start your marketing to small business offices with your capability statement to say, hey, I'm here for those less than $25,000 threshold opportunities that you could just put on your P card. So these are the government customers. And sometimes people hear government customer and they just think federal government, and that's not the case. It's also all the federal agencies, all of them, and there's a bunch of them out there, like weird ones that you never heard of before, but they all buy stuff. Then prime contractors, those are contractors who deal directly with the government. They're the ones who go through all the government bureaucracy and administrative burden, and you can just come in as a sub to a prime and just do the work and get paid. So dealing with primes is a good thing. Then there's state government, which a little bit easier to get into, and you're only competing with people in your own state. So if you're not in state government right now, if you're not in, like in Virginia, if you're not in EVA or SWAM certified, you're missing out on a lot of opportunities. And then there's local government. A lot of people don't think about this either. They don't think about their town, their county, their city, their municipality. It's all about economic development. So local government, they want to see dollars spent within their community, because businesses who win money spend money, and they're going to spend it in the community. So it's all about economic stimulus and economic development. So make sure that you're finding out how they procure. Not all of them not all of them use the state portal. So I think it's it was one of the cities I presented in, I don't think it was Roanoke, but they had their own procurement system. They didn't use the state system, like they didn't use EVA. They had their own system of procurement. So find out where they post and what the requirements are. And then there's quasi-governmental organizations like FAA, port authorities, airport authorities, Department of Transportation. They sort of have their own set of rules, and they have their own certifications. So you want to make sure you understand how they do business and what's needed to actually set aside with them if you're eligible. The government language, you really need to understand that you have to speak their language and you have to understand that language when you read it. You have to know what all the acronyms mean, and there are a lot of them, and the government has a tendency to speak in acronyms. So it's easy to get an acronym list. You can just go out and Google it, common government acronyms, just so you have a cheat sheet and know exactly what those mean. They usually say it, write it out once, and then use the acronym in later parts of a document. And codes, you need to know all of your codes, your NAICS code, your PSC codes, your CAGE code, know them all. And regulations. So the FAR, another acronym, means Federal Acquisition Regulation. And that is everything that you need to know about federal procurement. It is the federal procurement Bible. So there are sections in there that actually cover specific areas like socioeconomic certifications or how to ask for a debriefing. It's just a lot of different things, and even market research that buyers use to find small businesses. You also need to know what your thresholds are. So thresholds, I mean, not so much limitations, but what is a threshold for you being small or large? Some of you might be teetering on the edge of large. Others may be large in some of their NAICS codes and small in others. So you can be a business that's both large and small in the eyes of the government. It depends on what your NAICS is saying. It could be based on who you employ or your annual revenue. So make sure you know what you're small in and what you're large in. And thresholds also are part of the small business programs. And about that, the small business programs, you need to be able to qualify for them. So if you qualify, make sure you get them, because that's a great way to stand out from your competition and be bidding in a smaller pool. But know the thresholds involved with those. You need to know if it's economic disadvantage, what does that mean? It could be $25,000 or less in personal net worth. So know what those thresholds are to make sure that you're eligible for those. And then understand what procurement instruments are out there, such as a GSA schedule or blanket purchase order or blanket purchase agreement, best in class, which is called a BIC. You need to know what's involved with getting on those procurement instruments and how to look for them. Then you need to ask yourself, before you begin marketing, do you actually qualify? So do you have a commercial client track record? Have you been in business for a while? You build up a reputation. You're just now dipping your toe in the water of government procurement. So that's important. That's basically translates to past performance. They need to know that you can run your business and that you have run your business successfully for several years before they feel comfortable procuring with you. Do you have a good reputation? Do people recognize, hey, they know what they're doing. They're always on time, within budget, within technical spec, they do a good job. And do you have the financing? I heard this a lot yesterday. There was actually a whole panel on banks and what they can do for businesses in government contracting world on making sure that they're providing access to capital. So you have to demonstrate that you are fiscally healthy, that you have the access to capital to perform on a contract, meaning paying your suppliers, paying your vendors, keeping the lights on until you get paid on your government contract. Because the worst thing in the world to happen is halfway through a contract, you're out of money and you're not even close to being paid yet. So you want to make sure you can demonstrate that you are fiscally healthy. And you need to be able to demonstrate that you understand the logistics involved with government contracting. Do you understand RFID tags? Do you understand unique identifying marks? Do you understand how to package, how to ship, what first destination means, or freight on board? You need to have an understanding of those because it could mean the difference of getting paid or not getting paid on a contract. And do you have the right people within your organization to do project management? Because that is huge with government contracting. Somebody has to be able to oversee a procurement to make sure it is administered properly. Agency contacts, that's great. That's what we're going to teach you here. You need to be able to start developing agency contacts with small business offices and even with the primes as well, who are doing business with the government. Having those contacts and building a network of people it goes a long way to helping you get that first contract. And then teaming. Make sure that you have some people that you know and trust that you can team with to do more complex, higher dollar value procurements. So there might be something out there that you do part of, but you don't do the other part of the solicitation. But you know somebody who does that. You would want to team with them so you can both bid on the same project. So some market strategies. Of course, make sure you're up to the task, and that's what we talked about on the previous slides. Get certified if you're eligible. Register in SAM, make sure it's active, not inactive. Be e-commerce savvy. You have to have the technology background now. You just can't get away with not knowing how to navigate on a computer and be able to submit bids online. You need to be able to accept credit. That means when you were in SAM and they said, do you accept government purchase cards? You said yes. So people get overlooked if they said no to that. So you need to be able to accept credit because the government uses their purchase card to the tune of $25 billion a year. So you want to make sure you can be part of that action. And then you need to hit the streets, meaning go to the matchmakers, industry days, anything that the government or the primes are having that you can attend either virtually or in person. Like the matchmaker we had yesterday was a hybrid. You could come in person or you could actually have matchmaking sessions done virtually. That's even going on today. We have matchmaking sessions going on today with people that it's virtual. They didn't have to show up in person. They were still a little sketchy about going to a live event that had a lot of people. So make sure you're taking advantage of this because you get to meet these people live and in person. You need to build those important relationships. You also need to do your homework. And I heard this a lot yesterday from the buyers. They want you to know about them. They want you to do your research and know what they're forecasting, how to do business with them. I had a buyer from the Department of Justice was one of the panel speakers, and she said they actually have on their website a registration for people to register their businesses. So you need to find out if the agency that you feel is a good fit for you has such a thing. Where is their small business office? Where is their contact? Who is the SBLO, which is the Small Business Liaison Officer? So remember that when I say SBLO, you know what that means, Small Business Liaison Officer. Their only job and their sole mission is to find competent small businesses to help them fulfill their socioeconomic plans. Please become a subject matter expert on those you want to do business with because that impresses them. They really feel good about people who took the time to find out what they were forecasting or the time to find out how they did business and who they did business with. It makes a world of difference when you're having your first meeting with them. So more on targeting the right customer. Make sure you have a marketing plan and a business plan. Sbdc is great to help you design one of those. you need to know who those potential customers are, their agencies, their activities, their needs, their challenges. Go to their website, go to their social media, know how you fit in, and most important, know what regulations and procedures they use to actually procure. They might prefer to buy off a GSA schedule. You need to find that out before you actually approach them. Competitive intelligence, use your competitors. Who's actually buying for them? You might have a competitor that's like knocking it out of the park in government contracting. Well, who's buying from them? They offer the same goods or services that you do. So you need to find that out. And you need to look at their profile, look at their keywords in the dynamic small business search, look at their capability narrative, see what NAICS codes they're using, check out their website and their capability statement. Snoop. Find out as much as you can about them, and you might be surprised that it could be your next teaming partner, or you may want to do a joint venture with them. So it's just a great way to tap into the market and see who's out there doing what you do and who they're doing business with. So I talked about the FAR before, Federal Acquisition Regulations, and here's some FAR clauses that I included because I'm thinking that you might want to go in there and nose around a little bit and just familiarize yourself with the language, because it's written in like a foreign language. But once you start reading it and going through it, it will start to become a little easier to absorb. So FAR Part 19 is all about small business. So you should familiarize yourself at least with FAR Part 19. And then Part 30 is IT acquisition. I know a lot of you are IT professionals. Virginia is filled with IT professionals. So it's good for you to go in there and check out Part 30. And then Part 37 is service contracting. So if you offer a service, you would want to check that out. And then Part 36 is construction and architect engineer. So forecast, acquisition.gov. I talked about forecasts before. So anything over $25,000, they have built into a forecast. So a lot of federal agencies do a 3-year outlook on their forecasts. Many, like the military and the primes who service the military, have a 5-year outlook. So that's a lot of planning. Now, they have to plan because they need to know how much money to ask for from Congress. So they have this forecast, and when they're developing the forecast, they actually start writing down suppliers that they know have done business with them before or who have the potential to do business with them. They start planning the suppliers when they're doing their forecast. So you need to look at this acquisition.gov because it's going to give you some points of contact, types of contracts they're looking for, like firm fixed price, and whether they're considering a small business preference for these. Some marketing avenues you may want to consider, of course, networking. You need to do that networking. Meet those buyers. Ask for the meeting. It doesn't hurt. Start sending your capability statement. Attend all the conferences that you are able to attend. And now that they're virtual or hybrid, you can do it virtually and never have to travel or go into some messy Northern Virginia traffic. Look at calendar of events that we have them on our calendar. Sbdcs have them. And you can even find events on SAM because federal agencies are required to post their outreach on SAM. They also will have a calendar of events on their website. So make sure you're going to all the resource partners that you can to find out what's going on. I don't know how many of you even knew that we had a matchmaker yesterday. Hopefully you saw that on our calendar, and hopefully you signed up for some matchmaking sessions, whether it was live or virtual. Email. This is a very important thing that you need to consider. When you are sending an email to a small business office or an SBLO, that small business liaison officer, Make sure it's not a long narrative. It's short sound bites with high value content. No fancy language, no marketing language, no going into boring detail about what you've done and who you've done it for and how great you are. This is not an opinion piece. It's objective and it is quantitative. So it's also a great way to send a white paper. If you have a great idea and you've created a white paper, it's also a way to deliver your capability statement. And the most important thing, and why I highlighted it in bright yellow, no more AOL, Hotmail, Gmail addresses. Those are personal email addresses. The government does not take them seriously. If you send an email to a small business liaison officer or contracting officer and it's a Gmail account, chances are they're never even going to get it. It's going to get caught up in their spam filter. They don't take it seriously. It's not considered professional, and it is a cybersecurity risk. So if you are really serious with doing business with the government, make sure your email address is your business name. So this is an example of what you could send to a small business office. It's simple and to the point. It's no more than 3 sentences. And you'll see there's no marketing language here. So the first paragraph, it says why you're reaching out. Through my research of forecasted opportunities, I have determined you may need a language instructor proficient in Farsi. And then you go into a little bit more detail, like say you saw this on a forecast or maybe even just on their social media. So both English to Farsi, Farsi to English, written and spoken, as well as interpreting the subtle nuances of the language itself, which is critical. And then in the second paragraph, you say, this is what you do. This is what we do. And we've done it for a long time. And our instructors follow this format. So you go into detail about who you are and what you do in very, very succinct language. And then the kicker in the final sentence, I'd like to set up a time to discuss any opportunities you may have in the, and this is critical, less than $25,000 range. I've attached my capability statement for your review. Thank you for taking time to consider my firm. It's simple. It's to the point. It's quick and dirty. They're going to read every bit of that because they're not going to go into a trance over a long narrative. And the less than $25,000 range, remember, they only post opportunities over $25,000. So all those opportunities under that range, they use their network. They use their market research to find 3 people to bid. And generally the lowest bidder will get the job. But how do they do that? They use capability statements. They use the dynamic small business search. They use the people who have been reaching out to them and staying in touch. So don't forget to ask for the low-hanging fruit because it never gets posted. It's just something they do internally. Your website. So you want to make sure that your website is government friendly because they will go there. They're going to go to your website and they're going to find out more about you. So make sure that you say on your front page, maybe something you're working on currently. Keep it updated and relevant. Make sure it's not under construction or missing altogether. It's best if you have a dedicated government tab with a link to your capability statement so they can print it out and take it to decision makers. On your government tab, you're going to have an executive summary of what you do and what you're about, things that might be going on in the rest of your website. It saves them from having to navigate your whole website to get information about you. If they can do it in one click, they will love you and they will remember you because you made their research easy. So make sure it's easily navigable in bullet format and has some of your past performance history and even testimonials. Your business cards. This was really apparent yesterday. Somebody handed me a business card that was laminated and I couldn't even write on it. So it got tossed because I couldn't put any notes on it. So you want to make sure that you have a white non-glossy back on your business card. I don't care what's going on in the front. Just make sure somebody can write on the back, because they're going to talk to a lot of people and they're going to make notes on that card so they remember what they talked about with you. So when they get back to the office, they remember why they had that card and maybe what they wanted to follow up with you with. And make sure it has your NAICS and your cage code. Say what you do. I get a lot of complaints about that you might have on your card XYZ Consulting, but you don't say what you're consulting on. So XYZ Consulting, and underneath you could say experts in data analytics. That's a few simple words, just saying what you do. Make sure it's easy to read and not filled with a lot of stuff. You don't have to list all your NAICS codes and their definitions. Just, you might want to put some of your NAICS codes, but definitely put in your cage code. And you can put your socioeconomic logo, like if you're woman-owned or HubZone or 8A, but please do not, absolutely do not use the SBA logo. It's illegal. And I see it over and over again. You're not allowed to use the SBA's logo. You can use the logo that you are permitted to use that states your socioeconomic certification. And if you're a veteran and you've gone through verification, you have that great logo, that Vets First logo, you can use that if you are verified through the VA. I see a lot of people using logos that you're just not allowed to use. It's illegal to use any federal agency's logo unless you have a good reason to do so and permission from that organization that you can use it. Social media, government uses it. It's a great way for you to get to know what's happening with the people you've targeted. So if you've targeted GDIT, you're going to go to LinkedIn and you are going to follow them on their social media so that you know everything that's happening in real time with them. That might be where you find out that they're having an industry days or something like a project that they have coming up that you think you could be a good fit for. It's just a way to do some surveillance on what's going on in their world. So you want to make sure that you're following what they use. That government loves social media, and make sure you are reciprocal. Make sure you have a social media presence as well, because they're going to check that out. You can, it's actually a great question. If you sit down with the buyer, ask them what social media that they use, so you can make sure that you're following that as well. So we're going to talk about the dynamic small business search now. That is your free advertising with government. And believe me, I've gone through thousands of these in my career and hardly anybody gets it right. And you're doing yourself a huge disservice, because the government uses this for their market research, and so do primes. This is where they go. I actually had an SBLO tell me once, beg me to make sure businesses are filling out their dynamic small business search properly. So this is what it looks like in the public view. Anyone can get on here. You can get on here and you can do your own searches, but it's powered by the SBA, and it's at the tail end of SAM to get into and fix. Some people miss that. They do their SAM, but they don't go in and finish the dynamic small business search. So they basically get eliminated for further consideration if a buyer is doing a search. So this is what's called a capability narrative. And when a buyer does a search, this is what comes up. So let's say they're looking for a service disabled veteran in Virginia that does IT, and they might be specific with a NAICS code, or they'll use a keyword such as data analytics. So they're going to get a list of companies that fit that filter. And this is the first thing that comes up. If they see this, Poor A Plus L Cyber LLC, they're going to get overlooked because they didn't put anything in here. It helps the buyer start to thin the herd. Then they're going to read the capability narrative. If it's too long, like this one is a bit long, they might only read the first sentence. This is a pretty good size. They're going to read through that to see if they are saying the right things. If they are, they're going to move on to the next level. So this is why that capability narrative is so important. Once again, it's a conversational 1-2 sentence bit about you. It's your elevator pitch. No marketing language, value added words, and you're going to sprinkle your keywords in. You see how they did this. Accounting, financial management, program management, support human resources. Those are keywords worked in there. So the government usually has computer systems to scrub the capability narrative and the keywords. So you want to make sure that your keywords are definitely put in there. This one, like I said, I think that's a little too long. They're not going to read all that. They're just not, but they'll read the first sentence. So here's one that I wrote up. This is actually one of my clients, but I changed the name. So you can see it just is very simple and to the point, but it's a complete sentence. It's a proper paragraph. This is what we do, and I have keywords in there. And also, we also perform, and it just says what they do. It's very, very concise. And then here are keywords. So notice the keywords are real keywords. You need to put on your buyer's hat and say, what keywords would I use if I was a buyer and I was looking for my business? So information technology, staff augmentation. You won't see anything in here like consulting. No one is ever going to do a search using the word consulting. You need to make sure it's something that is going to be very, very precise, and it will give you better hits. So that's how people are going to search. Past performance, it needs to be properly filled out and actually in there. So many people miss this part. So when you're into the past performance section, you're going to put the name of the firm that you did the business with. They're the ones who paid you. You're going to say what type of contract it was, such as firm fixed price, when it started, when it ended. If it was ongoing, if it's still ongoing, you'll just leave that blank. You're going to put the dollar value in there. How much did you get paid? Who did you deal with? And their phone number. You may want to reach out to that person and say, may I use you for past performance in the dynamic small business search? If not, who may I put in here? They may want you to put in the small business offices SBLO. And this is what the buyer wants to know. And I've taken this right from buyers themselves. Can you meet their needs? Number one, what about you? Your name, your contact info, how to get a hold of you, what is your capability? It's who you are and what you do. You need to demonstrate capability and capacity. Are you both responsible and responsive? And those are two very important words in government contracting. They want to know that you are responsible and responsive. That's how they select awardees. They base it on the fact that they've determined that that supplier is both responsible and responsive. You need to show your past performance and previous customers. And very last, and I'm stressing this, very last, your socioeconomic status. I heard this over and over again yesterday. Never lead with your socioeconomic status. Don't shake hands with a buyer and say, I'm an 8A and I know you have goals to meet. That isn't what they want to hear. What they want to hear is your value. What do you do? What are you good at? What are your core competencies? And at the very end, after you've sold yourself on how great you are to them, you tell them what your socioeconomic status is. And oh, by the way, I'm a service disabled veteran. So that's what they want to see. They don't really care about your socioeconomic status, even though that's a goal for them. The real goal is finding suppliers who can meet their needs, finding suppliers who can help them solve their problems. You always lead with your value first. And if you take anything from this session, it's that. Always lead with your value. So I want you to be able to put on your buyer's hat and go out and look at your profile. You need to check out your SAM, your dynamic small business search, and your website and see if everything is put together correctly. Look at it the way a buyer would look at it. Go through that capability statement and read it like you're a buyer looking for a supplier in your area of expertise. So you have to ask yourself, can I be found first? And what does my business look like? Does it really tell the story about who I am and what I'm about? Some more marketing strategies, of course, is use the PTAC to identify those small business specialists and the small business offices, and actually reach out to them. If you've determined first that it's somebody you want to do business with and they want to do business with businesses like you. And you need to ask that SBLO to identify maybe some heads of procurement departments who might be another link to information and communication. It might not be the SBLO always. They might lead you on to another department. And then, of course, you need to develop a relationship with these people. You need to, don't be stalking. It's what we call ethical stalking. You want to stay in contact with them, but not every day or every week. Like, oh, you got to give me a contract and I really need the work and I know I could do a good job for you. Please don't do that. Don't be that person, because that makes them feel uncomfortable. But you do need to stay in their eyesight. You really need to stay top of the mind awareness and have them familiar with your branding and logo elements and what you do, so that when something does come up, they have that eureka moment, like, hey, I'm in contact with a firm that does that. Let me pull their capability statement up and reach out to them. So that's the kind of relationship you want to create. And please start going to these events and do it face to face if you feel comfortable with, and if not, please do it virtually. So here's 5-step marketing process that I want you to think about. Make sure you have prepared a marketing speech. So you sit down with somebody and you don't want to choke. You want to make sure that you have that 1-minute marketing speech down perfectly. Or if someone's calling you up on the phone and they want to know more about you, you want to be able to say what you do and not use that marketing language that nobody wants to hear in government. You need to provide a relevant capability statement, meaning it's not your general capability statement. That's a different animal. But if you're going to sit down with somebody and talk to them, you need to make sure your capability statement is customized to meet what's relevant to them, what their needs are. And you want to make sure your marketing materials are consistent, that everything matches. The numbers, the dates, the branding and logo elements, everything matches. There's no inconsistencies. And you need to make sure you're searching all applicable contact agencies and primes, because that's key to your success. You need to be prepared to demonstrate you understand them. You know what's going on with them. You can speak with them at a level that they can tell you know who they are and what they're about, because If you don't, if you sit down with a buyer and you don't know anything about them, you will lose them in the first minute. They're going to tell that you didn't do your due diligence. So some protocol, and this is just after you've met with them, or if you're going to a matchmaker, or you come back from a capability briefing. Remember, they have a difficult job and they're human too. You know, they have the same insecurities that we all do, and they need to be made to feel relevant. So you need to treat them with respect. Don't be mad at the government. Don't be complaining about procurement and how you never win a contract. You need to make sure that you're demonstrating what makes you unique from your competitors, and make sure you have that 1-minute sales pitch down perfectly and promote your experience. Don't hide problems from the buyers. You can talk about your problems or problems you may have had, how you solved them, and what your best practices are now as a result of that. And once again, don't be mad at the government, because that scares them really. And I've heard it. I've had buyers tell me that they've had people yelling and screaming at them on the phone. And how can you expect them to want to award you, no matter how good you are, if you're a little edgy with them on the phone? So let's talk about capability statements. This is the most important document you're going to have in your marketing arsenal. So these are the category heads in a capability statement: core competencies, differentiators, past performance, your relevant company data. Keep it to just the facts, 1 page only, and no marketing language. Keep all that best in class and state of the art and superior customer service, keep that out of it. So this is what it's going to convey to the buyer. This is all it's going to convey: who you are, what you do, how you do it, who you've done it for, and what you could do for them. That's all they want to see. They're going to scan that capability statement, and that's what they're looking for. So this is a capability statement template. This is what the buyers want to see. So it can be any format. You can move the stuff around as long as you're keeping the same categories. You can see core competencies, differentiators, past performance, company data. So the template that we provide came from target.gov. They are the ones who designed the template many years ago, and it's what PTACs use all across the country. And buyers love this format because they can scan a capability statement template designed like this and know exactly what's going on with this firm. It's easy to find the information. There's no long narratives. All the details are there. So this template is available to you. You don't have to be a PTAC client to have this template. We just want to make sure everyone is practicing best practices and doing the very best capability statement they can. So let's talk about your core competencies. It's what you do. So this is an example of some core competencies from a capability statement that I helped build. This is what they talk about. It's simple, it's to the point, it's bulleted. There's no long narratives, there's no big definitions. This is just a tease. You want to get them interested enough to want to know more about you. So here, it's all in the same area of expertise. This is all critical. It's not like you're throwing IT solutions in and janitorial. It's what you do. It's what you do best. Differentiators. This is a tough one for people to do. It is objective and quantitative. And what I mean by that is it's not an opinion piece. It's how you are different from your competition. So I showed this is an example. This came from an actual capability statement. There's a brief sentence about what they do, just what they do. Then here you'll see 100% risk, no risk-free, it's risk-free placement guarantee. So that is quantitative. Disaster recovery. There's a written plan for disaster recovery. That is objective. It's not an opinion. It's what they have. They've made a statement and they back it up. Quality assurance, we have a written quality assurance plan. Once again, it's objective. So you need to think about what makes you special. What is a statement that you could make that is documentable? What are you that is quantitative? 100% no risk. How about 100% satisfaction from client surveys, or 24/7 help desk, or 24/7 emergency assistance? You have to think about real facts about your organization, and that's what differentiators are. Past performance. If you were a sub to a prime, and you see they clearly state that, subcontractor to prime. The prime was higher echelon. It was a contract for the US Navy. They weren't the prime to the Army and Navy. They were a subcontractor. Higher echelon was the prime. They have the date that they did the work, the dollar value, a brief scope, developed and delivered training courses, who they dealt with, and that person's contact information. That is correctly formatted past performance that would go on a capability statement. No need to put any more than 3 on there. Please do not make a line item list of people that you've done business with, just naming the business. That is meaningless to a buyer. Do not use logos under past performance. Once again, it's illegal, and it doesn't tell the buyer what you did or when you did it and how much were you paid. It doesn't give them any valuable information proving you are a responsible and responsive bidder and you have capability and capacity. Then your company information. You need to say you're SAM active. Yes, I accept credit cards, and I'm small disadvantaged. These are my federal designations, and underneath your state designations. Don't bunch them all up into one because it's confusing. They don't really care about what you are with Virginia. Federal doesn't speak state, state does not speak federal. It's 2 completely different animals. And you want to make sure, of course, your UEI is in there, your cage code, your NAICS codes, and your PSC codes. And if you're new and if you got some space, talk about yourself. What makes you uniquely qualified to do business with the government? How did you come to this point where you're creating a capability statement? How did you start a business and why? So this is just an example how somebody talked about themselves, because you really are selling yourself. You are the business. And this is a good thing to put in if you're new and you have very, very sketchy past performance. You can do this as well. So here's some commonly used phrases that do not do you any service in your capability statement or any correspondence that you have with a government or prime buyer. All these words that people use that you're just used to using because they are marketing language. Please, this is the one that I see a lot, is leveraging our experience. No, just leave it out. Remember, keep it simple and to the point. So in summary, always lead with your value, not your socioeconomic status. I know it's hard to do. You worked really hard for that hub zone or that 8A. Just leave it last. Sell yourself first. Show you've done your market research and you understand their mission, vision, and pain points. Show that you are responsible and responsive, and you'll do that on the capability statement. They can also work on your website as well. Always have multiple versions of your capability statement. Do not sit down with somebody in an appointment and hand them your general capability statement. Make sure it's one that has meaning for them. It's designed specifically for them and shows how you have performed relevant work that they're looking to do in the future. And make sure you are marketing your statement to the agencies and organizations who have demonstrated need for your goods and services. Don't waste your time and efforts. It's going to get tossed if you send it to somebody who's never going to consider buying from you. So this slide is just to show next steps. It's a link to the Virginia PTAC. We cover 84 counties in Virginia, but there are 2 other fine PTACs in Virginia. There's Crater, and there's the Southwest Community College PTAC in the tail end of Virginia. There's also a PTAC in every state. So if you see this, if you're in another state, if you go to APTAC, that's our national organization, you can go in there and find out what PTAC is in your area. And here's some common topics that we assist people with. So please, you can always reach out to us and we will help you with these concepts. And you don't have to be a client to attend our training. And we have subject matter experts come and teach on government contracting every week. So make sure you're taking advantage of those trainings. They're free to you. And once again, you don't have to be a client. So are there any questions?
Thank you so much, Lisa, for such a powerful conversation and so many things to think about as we're working towards expanding and pursuing other opportunities for so many businesses, or some of you may already be working with the government in some capacity. Let's see here. I am going to stop recording.